How many dogs and cats do you see wandering the streets in your everyday routine? I mean, I don't see very many, but I do see some, right? So did you know that there are about 122,000 dogs and cats end up in the shelter, and about 50,000 of those get euthanized, which I hope you all know what euthanized means. Pretty much, they get put to sleep. So, and you don't, you would think of the reasons why these pets are in here. It's pretty much because some people will say they are neglected, abused, and some people might even say, oh, they bit my child, I don't want the dog anymore, the cat anymore. You know, it's kind of inhumane, right? And I would just like to see a show of hands of how many of y'all have pets and you just love them. You know, yeah, right? Yeah, okay. I mean, I know I do. I rescued my dogs, all from rescues that were in the shelter and they were neglectedly abused. You know, and that made me motivated to volunteer for so many rescues because I want to help dedicate and donate my time to help these animals because they don't deserve all this, right? So I definitely hope that with what I'm going to tell you about shelters and rescues, and I hope that you will also devote your time or not. If you don't have time to spare, maybe even donate some money of your change to them, and I'll just help the rescues and maybe even help the shelters. Even some shelters are non-killed that boost up their supplies for these pets. So yes, today I'm going to share with you the many benefits that help to decrease the number of animals going into the shelter, and volunteering for these rescues and donating your time to love these pets. There are a certain number of dogs and cats ending up in shelters, which I said, that's 122,000. That's a large number, I wonder how many people say that about abortion, But some of these pet owners, sometimes they take advantage of these pets and then they use them for, their own personal reasons and then dump them. For example, pit bulls. People abuse pit bulls and think they're awfully tough and want to treat them as an attack dog. They have feelings. They have some type of emotions just like we do, and they're really sweet. Some are, some aren't. I mean, that's just the way you train them. Exactly. So, like I said, these pets, predominantly pit bulls, like I would say, they end up in the shelter more than I would say other dogs, because some are cutesy, some are not. People are just fond about these other type of dogs and cats. And also people dump the dog because of certain medical issues. I had a dog, it was a Shih Tzu. He had epilepsy, and he was in a Loudoun County Animal Shelter, and they were going to put him to sleep because of that issue, the medical issue. How inhumane that is when someone can just adopt that dog, dedicate their time towards it, pay for the medication for it just to save it, And he was an autistic dog. He actually just passed away about November, but it's just because he's old and he had a stroke. So, but my only advice about adopting and even volunteering for all this is for people who like dogs, please think like 3 times before you even try to adopt a dog. If not, if you just immediately try to adopt, they're gonna change your mind, and then you change your mind about it, they're going to end up in the shelter, right? Because you're gonna be like, oh, I don't want that dog, I don't want that cat, But pets are like us. They have feelings. They go through pain. So let's just try to minimize that type of pain that a lot of dogs will feel. But yes, the thing that people don't realize is that shelters are very overpopulated. And that's why they always have to euthanize at least a few of them, like I said, because of medical issue, behavioral issue, or just people don't want them, they're so overpopulated that they have to euthanize them. And Humane Society, viewed on April 14, 2013, mentions that 3 to 4 million animals are euthanized each year. So not only 50,000 of them are brutally abused, but 3 to 4 million in the whole United States are euthanized every year. So think about it with abortions. How many of those abortions do we do? But yes, that's a high number, right? Now the reason why they're also abused is because they're breeding. There's a lot of like breeders out there who just don't want to spay and neuter, and there's just overpopulation of these pets. But we will get into that later. And a lot of the rescues take breeding dogs because they don't want them to be overbreeding again and having develop issues. I mean, it's a very painful thing to watch. But yes, these animals experience everything like we do, and just hopefully we can minimize the pain and suffering they go through and make them happier. So now there are ways to resolve these issues and provide another opportunity for a second chance. The most important thing that we share with pets is love. Love is the key factor, you know? Without love, there will be nothing, you know? And pretty much we just want to offer them TLC, which just stands for treat, love, and care. I'm sure you all know that, right? But rescues, on the other hand, they provide a lot of that. They try to provide a lot of that. And I've never met so many dedicated people to try to minimize the amount of dogs and cats that go to shelters, and they devote their time to help pick them up from shelter, foster them. And I mean, y'all can't even foster. Just donate your time to volunteer. Anyways, the second chances maximize their lifespan. You know, that's all they would like. It's just a second chance to live, to love, to play, to socialize. That's all pretty much they want. So, just if y'all have time, just go out there and dedicate your time towards these rescues because they definitely benefit a lot, and I'm sure your pet will also admire you for it. Thanks. Did you close it? Good.